So today's agenda that we're going to run through, about say 300, focuses on the order side of the house. I'm sure you've seen that in the information sent through. So basically I'm going to go through the functional use of order entry and some of the reporting around that. My aim is to show it, but also pick out some of the points that you may not have seen. I'm going to assume that the majority of participants have seen the module. Of course, like all training, it's far better if you do it and if you repeat it. So for extended training, you can either review the recording of this session and of course get involved with your consultants. All right, so first up, we're going to drive into the order module and look at the types of core documents. My first comment is one of an overview. In Sage, order entry is the sales module for inventory. So inventory holds the items and their balances, costs and pricing and so on is driven from them. And order entry is the functional module that will get them out of the door. We don't have to sell items, but it can use miscellaneous. So under order entry in transactions, we see a blank entry screen, and I pick up a customer. As is traditional, I'll use the first customer in the list. This is standard data, so it shouldn't really relate much to current years. It's set in the future and set with, I think, Canadian tax setup, but that won't affect us. The first area to look at is the ordered types. A lot of clients might use quotes and active orders. Active is a current order which can be shipped, standard normal order. A quote, the second most common type, is essentially that I can print out a quote form, I record all the information, it gives me all the pricing and quantities, but I can't ship it and I can't use it for invoicing. I have to convert it. If I do run a quote, the simple way to convert it is to pick it up and just change it to active. So just talking about quotes, if I look in my Finder and find an existing quote, here's one we made before, that has any outstanding balances. No, I don't have one. All right, so I'll start a new one. So if I was to make a quote, that document is exactly the same information that I record as for an order. However, it's able to be held separately. It has an expiration date, and the quote will be expired and unable to be used after a day end on that date. Yeah, that can be far forward. So you can use a quote at any time. Once a quote's been turned into an order, it's a normal order, and you can then change prices, delete lines, and so on. So a quote's very useful. The next style of order is a future order. A future order has presumably a future order date. So you put a date that's in the future to this system. This warning is just a warning regarding the fact that it's more than, for instance, 30 days from today's date, just a data entry type warning. It will automatically change to an active order on the date specified, on a day end on that date, or alternatively, it will can be changed at any point to an active order. So quite similar to a quote in the sense that it holds all the information that you wish to put an order in, but is used to generate in the future. So if you know that you're getting an order per month and they're separate, you might put in 12 future order types and they will turn active on those days, or you can manually manage it. The last type of order which we're allowed in order entry is a standing order. Now, standing order is for an order which is of a regular nature that you're going to be repeating. You can change a standing order to an active order at any time. Once changed, it will create a new order and leave the standing order. So basically, this is a potato stamp. You can sit inside the order entry screen with a standing order and create new orders from it at any time. and they can be created to and changed, of course. They don't have to be exactly the same. I'm going to start with an active order. If we look at the next area, I won't go into, there's a lot of various fields at the header level, which I won't drive into. I'll just go in and add a line. I'll pick up the first item. As you, for those who are using a system would well know, when you enter an item, at the bottom is this very useful area which tells you what's going on with that item. How many you have on hand, how many you have available, which may be less because there are committed items, how many are currently on sales order and on purchase order. Very useful because you can drill to that. And so when you're on the line to a customer, you might be asked, okay, I need more than 120. When is the next group in? And you can say, on this date, I expect this amount. So I see that as a very useful information source. In this case, I'll just order one of those and I'll look at the pricing and go, yes, that's correct. Insert on the screen. Now I'm going to go to the next area I wish to review, which is changing the type to miscellaneous. I can switch between a standard item, which means it comes from the inventory control module, or miscellaneous, which basically means I'm not an item, I'm basically a charge. So over here, I pick an amount that I wish to bill to the client once I've picked the charge. So I'll pick a freight amount. Now the description can be modified, very important. It's a 60-character field, so you might wish to say, you know, freight to your door or freight some information. Freight as agreed. I've now got a larger amount due. Okay, so miscellaneous items are very useful because not only can you have an endless list, but you can also have prices pre-populated. I'll come back to where that's done, but essentially it's great to know you can add those at any time. At a core level, that is an order with two different line types. A couple of points around that. Before I would post an order, I would normally drop into the total screen and confirm that I like what I see around tax. You can see we've got 53 plus an amount of tax. Excuses me that it's not 10%, it's a Canadian example, which equals this total. You can see some other information. An important field is the comments. That's a very large field, and you can make a large comment. It's normally printed at the bottom left of the order, but of course the forms themselves are able to be changed. Other areas of interest apart from the detailed screen is the fact that you can look at the customer and override, as a good example, its terms code. You can also change price lists, which will affect the next price given if you change the order and add a new line. On the taxes code, you get to see a breakup of the taxes. In Australia, we only see one line, of course. Optional fields allow us, as you can see in the sample data, it's been well used, to add extra pieces of data which are not catered for on the main screen. We have a lot of cases where you might need a shipment number that's not otherwise on the screen, and in it goes. You can also have lookups to fields that are pre-populated. So if you may have only 4 couriers allowed, you pick one from there. These fields can be set to be forced, so that the entry operator has to complete them. Or, as in this case, I believe they're all optional. Sales, for those using salespeople, you're allowed to identify who gets the credit for this order, and you can change that. So you don't have to stick with the default for that customer, which we came up with. You can change it, but it does have to equal 100. Multi-currency, so this is a Canadian company dealing with US dollars, and this is the rate they've been offered from the central rate area in Sage. Of course, you can override it. So, at the base level, this is me creating an order, click on post. At that point, it gives me an order number 76 and offers to print the conf. The conf has a range of different choices. I'm just going to go with defaults. One key is the delivery method. I'm able to send it to an email from the screen. This is the conf, and this document, as often as not, isn't sent, but if it's, for instance, a phone order and you wish to send something through, then it would be this. This document is, of course, modified to be your own version. I can also, using the export icon at the top left, choose to either capture this to PDF or Excel or other formats. So as you can see, I've now got a document in PDF, which I can do with as I wish. Or I can, using the normal format export, change it and put it into Excel or Word, other different formats. Jumping over there. Okay, so in orders, there is a range of other areas that we could look at on this screen, but I just wish to move along into the concept of an order which is shipped and invoiced in one go. So I'll start again. I'll do several items. One concept which is very important in Sage is the location idea. Where is this item being shipped from? In this data set, we've got several warehouses, and the beauty of this location finder is it tells you how much I've got at each warehouse. And now I've got 240 in the Portland office with 240 available, so I'll pick that and ship a larger figure from there. Okay, I'll ship from Portland, sorry, which is number 2 and order 10. Staying in the Portland office, I will make this entire order from there just to be consistent. You can mix and match. And looking down the bottom here, I can see that I've got 138 available at location 2. So I'll have one of these. And again, I can override the price, $6.25, change that if I wish. Remembering also, for those who are current users of Sage, you would know that the F9 key, so F9 on the keyboard, or this button down here, launches a detailed screen. So instead of sending this information across a long line, you see it in one screen, which can be very useful for a single view of the line. One of the differences on this line is I can also see the detailed tax that's going to be assigned to this line. So I was saying the idea with this second order is to ship it and invoice it in one go. So it's just a case of clicking ship all for those with authority. And now you can see that my shipment quantity has changed from 0 to 10 and 1. Another option that I can choose, optionally, is to create the invoice. By creating the invoice, I'm going up to the last step and issuing the final tax document. If I go to create invoice, then I can also look on the total screen and see more information. I can see the invoice number that's going to be offered, and I can override that if I choose. Majority of users of Sage would not, because it gives you an audit trail of sequential invoice numbers. But there may be reasons to have pre-allocated a number, in which case you can enter it there. This is the date of the invoice. Again, you may modify it, and the accounting or posting date, which affects the GL. You can also do the same changes for the shipment number. All right, so then having both chosen to ship all and to invoice, I'll post. Now when I post, instead of just being offered to print the order conf, I get a range of documents. I can print the order conf and the shipment and the invoice, or I can just go to the last step and print the invoice. Again, this document can be chosen to be sent to email from that screen. So now a very similar document, again, it could be different depending on your needs. This is the invoice that I'm sending. So now we have an amount owing of 420. And in this case, it's US, I suspect. Okay, that's all being done at once, where we raise the order and the shipment and the invoice, job done. So you get, as the controllers of your system, we can choose to separate out the duties. So one group or person enters orders, another may ship them, which classically could be held in the warehouse. And then, depending again on your requirements, the invoicing can be done by a central finance group, or allow the warehouse to press that button, should you be so brave. And as discussed, from an order entry screen, we can only create the order, or only the order and the shipment as a pair, or all three. All right, I'll now look at shipping an existing order. This is the normal second step. I pick the same customer with an open order. I can pick the open orders for that customer. Usefully, it only shows me that customer. And I can say, right, I will now ship this order. It offers the same information that we were looking at previously, and we then can ship from there. I've chosen, if you look, ship to date, it's 0, and quantity shipped on this document is 0. If I ship all, I get to ship my 10, my 5, and my 1. But I might not be ready. I might only have one of these and none of those, so I can override these amounts. And so when I post that, I'll create a back order of 4 and 1. So I might as well do that. And I can then print the shipment, another document. Another important choice on creating shipments is the ability to create shipments from multiple orders. So it's only sensible that if a busy customer has multiple orders and you wish to ship them all at the end of the day, or maybe once a week, you choose the customer and click the from multiple orders, and then the zoom button. This brings up this suspiciously blank screen, which instead of providing a list from which you tick, provides a finder from which you pick. So in this case, for customer 1100, I have these outstanding orders which could be shipped. I'll pick this order, press Insert on the keyboard to get to the new line, the usual Sage requirement, and this customer. One thing you will note is that on the Finder, there's quite a bit of information. For those used to Sage, you may be aware the Finder is itself able to be modified. So we can go and say, also, a piece of information I would like to know is how many lines are on this order. Now, if I go across, I can see all the addresses, totals. That would be useful to drag that over. So I know how many dollars are being affected. That gives me some information. Let me just complete that. Takes a moment. By the way, any changes you make to your own screens, save for yourself. It's very personalised. Over here, under Settings, Columns, I see a great deal of information which is not yet in the Finder, which could be there. So I will cruise down here looking for the number of lines on order, include that, and then push that up on the list so it appears towards the left of my Finder. There's a lot of fields already been selected for this group. So now I can see the number of lines, and predictably, the one which had most money had the most lines. So I chose that, I already have. So that's just a general note on finders and how you can add all finders in Sage, if you have permissions, will allow you to add columns. And in most cases, there are some quite useful columns that you can add. Having done what I need to do, by the way, I can drill to them too. I don't have to just use the Finder. Of course, I can open up an inquiry screen and look at what information is on that order. So this order is quite busy. It's a different screen again. It's just an inquiry screen. Okay, I'll now ship the lines on order 70 and 71. It's a reasonably large order, so it's taking a moment to fill, and there it is. Okay, so I have chosen those to be shipped, but I've not said which lines are shipped. Classically, I would ship all, and then I might have some exceptions. This particular fluorescent desk lamp, you see it, we've got a large number of repeated lines actually here. Some of them are different, some are not. You may say, well, we don't need that line. So any line that you don't need, you can ship 0 on that, and that will remove it for you. Okay, so whether or not we ship it all, we can also, at this point, from multiple orders, create the invoice as before. So the key difference in this shipment was I chose to send multiple orders. Similarly, we can do the same trick with invoices. Firstly, I'll look at a standard invoice. This is a shipment which is yet to be invoiced. So maybe it was sent last night and we need to now raise the document to go with it. Choose the customer and choose the shipment. Or I can go around the other way, should I choose. Or can't I? One moment, I'll just confirm that. I can if I do it this way around. So you can see that I've got another customer here as well now. I didn't choose the customer first. So this is all open shipments. This is actually a useful inquiry because I'm saying, what have I not invoiced? And by simply opening up the invoice screen and clicking on shipments, it shows you. So I'll choose to invoice this. And the difference in this screen, apart from the ability to, you can override still at this point any amounts. So because you have access to it, you can say, well, I'm in the finance team and we've agreed that while we thought this was 59, it's 55 for whatever reason, and override it at this last moment. Post that, and then I've got a new invoice number 65. Often in a processing sense, that document number would be recorded at this point separately. There might be some manual paperwork around it. The alternative, as previously mentioned, is if I choose my customer number first, I can choose to invoice multiple shipments in one document. As long as I have outstanding shipments which are yet to be invoiced, this will appear, and I can select multiple documents. Invoice those, close that, and there we are. So now they're coming from multiple shipments. And you can always drill back into those shipments to see what it was. So in a sense, we've got many orders can become one shipment, and many shipments can become one invoice. It's a tree. Okay. And so then I can choose to post that document. So quite flexible. All the time, as you would notice, sorry, I didn't mention it, even in the invoice, it continually is promoting quantities on hand and giving you the ability to drill into that information. We've also got other buttons on the screen which exist for orders, shipments, and invoices, including an item drill. This will allow you to see information on the item. If you've got Ops Inquiry running, which is a separate module in Sage, but included with the inventory side, Ops Inquiry allows you to drive that drill, and it picks up information on that item. Now, it's a great deal of information on that, but it's relevant to the item you selected. You can just see some of the setup for it. More likely, you might be interested in transactions. There's a great list of transactions. Or in, you can see that this is sort of by location, or location 1 first, then or location 2. Or you might just be interested in pricing. And the good thing about this module is it allows you to see all the pricing information calculated in one screen. Because Sage has mildly complex pricing models, it's sometimes difficult to see this in one place. So for all price lists, these are all the prices. Now you can see this price list I would like to be on. And presumably that's not in dollars, but is in yen, but may just be poor data. But we can see that we have price discounts or not on different price lists as we go across. And it's information that you might find very useful for one item. What customers have got associated numbers with this? What sales we made by period? What purchase orders have been raised, not just outstanding, but raised for this document. So that item drill is not just to be ignored, it's quite a useful screen. We'll come back to this. The history screen is similarly just a small part of that information. So it's more of an instant history where you can also drill down to the details. So for instance, for this customer, this is the history of what they've done in these 3 periods. They've bought this item and this item. And if you click on the details for that period, it shows you the transactions on which they bought them. And then, as you would imagine, you can then open that document. So the drill's not to be ignored, quite useful. And that, as I mentioned, is also available in the other two screens. Okay. I'll now move on to the next in our agenda. So we've looked at order types. We've looked, we'll come back to credit notes. I'll do those later. I'll jump around. We've looked at doing entries, shipments, and invoices. And I'll also confirm that we've looked at multiple documents. Excuse me. And so the next I wish to look at is the copy orders concept. So in Sage, to create an order from a prior document, one way is to use these future orders that we already discussed. So in order entry, you can have a document type called a quote or future and use that to create another document. But that requires that you first enter it in as a future. We have the copy orders button. Now, for those of you using this, you'll know it well. You can pick a source customer and you can pick a different destination customer, all the same. You can pick one order or a range of orders. So these are the orders that are available from customer 1100. So if I just pick one order, and then I'll press F7 instead of the go button, F7 is just a shortcut, it shows you the lines on those orders. You then can create a new order of the type you choose straight away. So an active order is, you might create a quote though. So you can use this to make new quotes from old documents. If I press create, and it makes me a new order that quickly. I might wish to copy an old large order for a client that might be doing it again, and you haven't got a future or standing order, so you just wish to copy a previous document. So what I'll do is I'll use the finder. Here's a large order with 17 lines. And so now I've got a large document with many lines, which I've sourced from company 1100, and I'm going to put it to a new document for 1100. I'm going to make it in April. Get a warning, thank you. And I could choose, if I chose, make it a quote, so I can quote on this. But I'll leave it as active. Press create, and that easily I've done a 17-line order. Another key point is that I can repeat this activity, but I don't have to pick up every line because, of course, the lines may change. And on this screen, I can also change the details because, of course, essentially I'm making a new order. So I might want 2 of those and none of the last one, and so on. So each of these lines I can modify. So having said no to several lines, I think I'm going to make a 13-line document, and there it is. Okay, so you can see that I've essentially created a document very quickly. And as mentioned, it's a great way to make a quote. If you've got a similar document to someone recently, you can go and steal that and make a quote. So I find that where there's any repetition in ordering or sales, this is a very useful screen and is extensively used. It can also, as you would see, be used to combine documents. So we don't have to pick only one order. I can pick all orders. And now, having done that, or a range of orders from customer 1100, it's off thinking. I'll get a large document, in this case 61 lines. So I'm combining many prior orders, which can be a bit illogical because I get the same item many times. Okay, so the copy orders screen is very useful, and I recommend it to anyone who's got repeatable work. Okay, the next thing I will look at is credit notes. Credit notes, first comment is that credit notes and debit notes live together. A debit note is just an upside down credit note. It has a similar effect but around the other way. An example may be an invoice has been posted and we wish to add value to it. We forgot the freight, or there's been agreement that we'll charge a further amount, and you are then able to add, say, your $100 to the invoice by making a debit note. Today though, I'll make a credit note. What am I crediting? A prior invoice. So I'll pick an invoice. Here's one we made before. Oh, maybe up here. This is the line on that document I've chosen. Should I wish, I can drill into the original invoice and look at its detail. Maybe there's something I need to see in the comments or so on. So I can look at the information that was truly invoiced and its tax treatment, etc. It's all available to me from this small drill. From here, I then get to choose what crediting I will proceed with. I may wish to credit one item. If it's left like this, the item that I've chosen to credit will go back to my inventory, i.e. they've returned it. They said, no, I don't need this, or you didn't send it, and on review we found that to be the case. Returning it to inventory, we'll return it to inventory at the cost that it was sent out at, and will of course remove the price amount from the invoice that we select. So it's an important point that this will affect my inventory valuation. It will add an item back plus its original cost, which is very useful. It essentially undoes what happened. There are other choices. I can also choose to damage the item. This means that, of course, it came to me and it was wet. They'd taken a photo and I agree that the item, one of the 15, was damaged. What that will do is not return it to inventory, but write it off to our damaged items account, which is held in our control accounts in inventory control for that item. It will also provide, of course, the price or adjustment that we agree. Now, mine might say, yes, but you didn't have a appropriate place to keep it, and we agree to go halves. So I'll give a $30 credit, but I'll still damage the item. That way, in my inventory history, I see that the item was written off at the cost that inventory held, and I have a $30 loss or a credit to the customer. The last choice I have for cost types is a price adjustment. The normal argy-bargy, maybe for all 15 of these, we decide that we're going to adjust an amount. And if I just press the item text button here to see the screen in total, it's harder to see like that. If I adjust them by $2 each, my total adjustment, or 15 times 2 is 30. So be aware that the extended price would be a useful column to have on the screen, drag it across from the right. Of course, when you're doing a credit note, I strongly suggest a few comments, which you can make. Normally, these would have been set to print on the credit note itself. Agreed price, variation, and your initials, and so on and so on. So whatever you might type, probably better typing than me. If I save that, I can see my tax that's going to be affected when I refresh that. Like it's $2 tax on top of a $30 credit is that much total credit. As agreed, you may also have the comment at the top of the document rather than the detail line. If I post this credit note now, it makes a credit note for me. Number 4, I print that, I'll get a standard document. Again, should I choose, all of these documents are allowed to be delivered by email to the customer's address, should I choose, with this little email, hi you, here's a credit note, have a nice day. But today I'll just print the screen so we can see it. And there's my credit note. Again, classically you would have this is a credit, do not pay, I would strongly suggest. There's that comment. All of these forms, of course, in an existing system would be modified to your requirements. And importantly, you can have multiple credit notes. You may have one which is less detailed, one with more, one for overseas, etc. Some larger clients or customers may demand a certain format, so you might have one for Coles and one for Woolworths. And they're very big on the credit notes. When you deal with them as the vendor, you become the customer. Okay, so credit notes themselves, very useful. I'll just focus on the point that the detail line credit type is what drives the accounting in the background, and you can override the pricing and so on that's applied to it. The next area I'd like to look at on my agenda is sales history, which I'll touch on that briefly. I have looked at that. And then a range of reporting. Sales history is essentially the same history that we've already been launching from these three forms. If you go to inquiries, you can go straight to that sales history from here, and it's the same form. Pick a period or range of periods, pick a type of investigation. I want to see what customer 1100 has been sold in this period. And I can see it's these documents. How many sales have we done? 2. What quantity in this period for this land? Then we move on to the next item and the next and the next. Each of these suffer from detail and then drill down to documents. You can also reverse it and look at an item and see its history. These are the sales I've made to this customer in this period, and when you hit the detail, it shows you the documents associated with it. As in many screens in Sage, where there's an inquiry, there's also file print. This is essentially a shortcut to the same document information in a printed format. Notice it's pre-filled item information there and these period selections. And if I choose print, I get this. Now, of course, any detailed report with so much different columns of information becomes a little messy, but not too bad. Notice the currency is highlighted there. And as you change this item focus, as we change customer, it changes subtotals. Other reports inside order entry are essentially, you can look through these as summaries by salespeople and statistics, but the reports I wish to focus on are some of the action reports. An order action report allows you to see what orders still need action, logically. What do we still have to do? We've taken an order and haven't delivered it. So a classic order action report may be incomplete orders. And this is based on shipment date. So if I take the shipment date out at the beginning and leave a large end date, this will be all outstanding orders or incomplete orders, orders that are not finalized. And of course, this is an important document because these orders, for instance, order number 1 is still there. Now, if it's old, we need to delete it. If it needs action, let's get onto it. There's $1,000 worth of sales waiting there. You can also look at only orders where there's out of stock items. So this is a very useful report. It tells you, well, there's only one. This item is being ordered, but we don't have it. So then that can be investigated. So we see the order action report being, summary is useful as well. If I look at incomplete, this is more of a management view, just a big picture. These are the orders that we're yet to fill. You can also use this, of course, to look at complete items, completed with no shipment, so those have been deleted, or all items. What items are available? What orders can I ship? And I'm told that I've got the gear for all these, so why don't we get them out the door? You can go by detail or summary, that's your choice. You can also sort by customer or salesperson. So you may have a large customer and you focus on them and ask the same question by one customer. We have a similar report called invoice action. A risk in a system where you split your shipment and invoicing is that you may ship it and not invoice it. Well, of course, that would be an expensive proposition. So this report would be run on a regular basis to review outstanding shipments. As an example, I've got a range of shipments here to my customer 1100, came up and they have yet to be invoiced. So they've received this good, but haven't got an invoice. So we see that as another very useful report. You can sort that by order or shipment number. And choose a small range of dates. You might just look at the last week if you've got old documents that you know are being dealt with separately. Okay, the other report that we looked at was sales history. We've already seen that. That's the one that I launched to when I went to the sales inquiry screen for history. There's a range of other reports which involve transactions and so on, which you can use as need be to report out your system. Another major reporting area is that ops inquiry that I briefly mentioned. So ops inquiry, as I say, is a separate module. If you're using inventory, not every site will have it. If you don't, certainly talk to your consultant. What it allows you to do is to get a very item-specific view. So you see an item is not by customer, it's by item. Everything the system that is saved knows about that item should be in this set of screens. And as you can see, it's a little overwhelming, but we can turn off these screens for everyone or one person. So you don't have to give them everything. If they don't have access to cost information, then they won't see that. So for instance, here I've got a cost. Now, you don't want your salespeople seeing that, maybe, then that's possible. One area I do like very much is the stock card screen. This represents what we used to do, where you had a piece of card that you would keep for each item, and you would write the ins and outs, and it would be very straightforward to see a summary for a period. So on this item, I can see for this location, keeping in mind that each location is a separate set of data. And on period 1, I had 0. I received 15, there's the cost. At the end of the day, I had 15, and there's the cost. So we can see a story. And then nothing moved until period 11, so we don't see that. Those intervening periods, there's no movement. In this period, I had 15. I received 5 more, and so now I had 20. So we can see that there's a lot of receipts going on, and then I've got some minuses, so some credits. We go to an item which has got some sales, that would be nice. So this fluorescent desk lamp, in this period here, 7, we transferred some to another area, and as we can see, in the next period, we sold some. So each of these periods, in period 3, I started with 0, I sold some into negative, which is always all good, but luckily I bought some. Most Sage inventory is set to not allow negatives. And at the end of the period, I've got 40. So 0 plus 50 minus 10 equals 40, and the costs do the same. This is an excellent view on your data to simplify what can be a complex list of transactions. But so much easier to read than this, which, by the way, is a very useful list. It does tell us what's happening for each of these documents. You can also drill down to order entry style information. If you're looking at shipments from the screen, double click the grey area and it pops up with a review on that shipment, and you can see the details associated with it. So I highly recommend this module if you're interested in managing stock items and the pricing and so on that's associated with it. In Sage, I did say I would mention it. Miscellaneous charges. Remember that lines don't have to be true items. In the miscellaneous charges screen, you can add new charges and give them standard prices and associate them with tax or not. So your list of miscellaneous charges can be as long as it needs, remembering that essentially these are items which aren't held in inventory. They're just there to generate money. A minor note, they can also generate negative money. So you can use miscellaneous charges to reduce the value of an order, which is quite useful for a number of scenarios. However, be aware the order itself cannot be negative in total. It still has to have a positive total amount.